What is string theory? What is its links with creation? And बापूजी के ज्ञान के साथ इसका क्या रिलेशन है? First of all, we must know how physics works, how scientists works. Why do they think differently? तीन चीज है: इंफॉर्मेशन, नॉलेज, विजडम. जितने सारे इंफॉर्मेशन से, these are nothing but events occurring around us. There are infinite number of events. When a person correlate all these informations to understand the basic cause or origin of the informations or events, it's called knowledge, जिसको ज्ञान कहते हैं. जो सारे इवेंट्स को एनालाइज करता है और उसकी बेसिक रीजन को समझता है, वो ज्ञान है. Then finally comes wisdom. Wisdom is a very vast and final topic. जब वो आदमी सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन करता है, then he can manipulate all these events occurring around him. He becomes a real master. He becomes a master of nature. So this is wisdom. Wisdom is the final aim of human life. तो बापूजी हमें जो ज्ञान दिए हैं उसका भी फाइनल एम विजडम है. विजडम मीन्स सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन. Who is a scientist? Who thinks all the reasons of the events, and always sees the external world in a different manner, and always make effort to make change for the betterment of the human society. He is a real scientist. So scientist is a simple human being but views external nature differently. Physics is a branch of science which always directly tries to explain the hidden secrets of nature. दो टाइप्स के साइंटिस्ट हैं: थियोरेटिकल फिजिसिस्ट्स एंड एक्सपेरिमेंटल फिजिसिस्ट्स. थियोरेटिकल फिजिसिस्ट्स हर वक्त एसम्पशन, इमेजिनेशन में रहते हैं. उनका माइंड हर वक्त इंटरनली दौड़ता रहता है कि वो सारे सीक्रेट का आंसर उनको मिल जाए, लेकिन उनके डायरेक्ट एक्सपीरियंस कुछ होता नहीं है. इसीलिए वो हर वक्त इनडायरेक्ट एक्सपीरियंस, दैट मीन्स थ्रू थॉट प्रोसेस, वो सोचना चाहते हैं कि क्या रीजन है. इसीलिए वो थियोरेटिकल फिजिसिस्ट बहुत सारे हाइपोथेसिस, बहुत सारे फिलोसॉफी प्रपोज करते हैं. सो दीज आर कॉल्ड थियोरेटिकल फिजिक्स. वो क्यों ऐसे सोचते हैं जबकि बाकी लोग ऐसे क्यों नहीं सोचते हैं? वो बापूजी के ज्ञान के हिसाब से जिसके सोल में जो भी नॉलेज पड़ा है, जो भी रिकॉर्ड्स पड़ा है, उसका संस्कार वो बनाता है. सो साइंटिस्ट के सोल में जो नॉलेज पड़ा है, जो सोच पड़ा है, वो उनको सारे चीज़ को डिफरेंट मैनर में देखने के लिए मजबूर कर देता है और वो उसी हिसाब से सोचते हैं और बहुत सारे फिजिक्स के थ्योरी निकालते हैं. वो है थियोरेटिकल फिजिक्स. To express and explain this hypothesis of theoretical physics, mathematics is created. What is mathematics? Mathematics is a process to measure the quantities of the universe. How to measure? पहले मेजरमेंट क्यों आया? जब बिजनेस, ह्यूमन बिजनेस डीलिंग्स के लिए मैथमेटिक्स पहले क्रिएट हुआ, लेकिन ये जो नंबर्स एंड मैथमेटिक्स कन्वर्टेड इनटू इक्वेशंस. So later on complicated equations developed to understand the nature. So imagination converted to equation of variables is called mathematics. So mathematics gives values. If values are proved, then theory or hypothesis of a scientist is proved. Not because scientists never realize things directly, only proposes theory through imagination. So when mathematics proves their theory, then they becomes happy. How to check that their theory is correct? It is through experiment only. When experimental results tallies with theoretical mathematical equations result, then their theory becomes valid. So then scientist thinks that they are in a right way, and they get confidence. So scientists who only thinks and create theory, they are theoretical physicists. There are many such scientists: Albert Einstein, Newton, Galileo, Stephen Hawking, Michio Kaku, Michael Green, etc. Plenty of them are there who only create hypotheses. एक्सपेरिमेंट लेबोरेटरी में जो एक्सपेरिमेंट्स करते हैं टू वैलिडेट द रिजल्ट ऑफ दिस थियोरेटिकल फिजिक्स आर कॉल्ड एज एक्सपेरिमेंटल फिजिक्स. जब वो रिजल्ट मैच नहीं करता, थियोरेटिकल रिजल्ट और एक्सपेरिमेंटल रिजल्ट मैच नहीं करता, तब साइंटिस्ट के इमेजिनेशन और थ्योरी गलत हो जाता है. देन दे थिंक दे चेंज देयर थ्योरी because their experience is indirect, so they can change their theory. So वो theory change कर लेते हैं. तो ये hypothesis को prove करने के लिए mathematics बहुत develop हुआ. There are many mathematicians who came into picture: Euler, Pythagoras, Leibniz, Gauss, Gabriel, Venezian, Ramanujan, etc. Subsequently, theoretical physicists and mathematics become inseparable. There are many experimental physicists. They work in labs, just like Fermilab, CERN, Hadron Collider, many experimental physicists. So, scientists never have direct experience, they have only indirect experience. Direct experience can only be done by yogis, but what yogis see through direct experience cannot be experimented in laboratory because their physical body is their laboratory. So what is difference between direct experience and indirect experience? उसके लिए मैं एक एग्जांपल बोलता हूँ. मैं किसी एक आदमी को बोलता हूँ जो एक रसगुल्ला, एक मिठाई है जो वेस्ट बंगाल में फेमस है, उसके बारे में जानता ही नहीं. मैं उसको बोलता हूँ ये कि ये वाइट है, ये गोल है, ये मीठा लगता है, लेकिन उसने कभी देखा नहीं उस चीज़ को. जब मैं उसको ये चीज़ बोलूँगा वो इमेजिन करेगा that it is something round and it looks white. So he makes a picture or imagine a picture in his mind. This is called theoretical physics. So scientists imagine things. To validate the theory, he has to go to laboratory. Otherwise, his theory becomes a theory. But yogi is such a person. He directly tastes the rasgulla, the mithai. So he no more imagine anything because he directly sees all the things in his mind or through meditation. So what is taught by Bapuji, the gyan given by Bapuji, is direct experience. So there is no confusion, there is no experimentation. This is the direct things. The purpose of explaining all this to explain the genesis of string theory, which is based on imagination of various scientists. बहुत पहले there was hardly any difference between scientists and philosophers. Everything was only in theory till Galileo sees distant stars through telescope. Gradually mathematics creeps into scientists extensively, like differentiation, integration, Laplace series, Fourier series, etc. to explain many complicated events on earth, unravel the mystery of earth, etc. Differentiation and integration are called calculus. There are two basic mathematics which are extensively used in science, and all other higher mathematics are derived from differentiation and integration. ये कंट्रोवर्सी है कि ये कैलकुलस कौन निकाला था. It is a controversy between Leibniz and Newton, but history recognizes Newton is the father of calculus. Everybody knows Newton made significant contribution to the development of science by just using this mathematics called calculus. In simple term, differentiation is nothing but to differentiate a mathematical function. So differentiation represents disintegration of a system. The system is nothing but treated as a mathematical function. Similarly, integration is to integrate, that is to add on various small parts to create a definite system. So, it is a fact that you can differentiate any function, but you cannot integrate all functions. This means any ideal system, which we may call in mathematics as a function, can always be disintegrated or differentiated to fragments, but it is practically impossible to harden fragments to create an original ideal system. So mathematics gives inference how to explain nature indirectly, because direct experience as yogis used to do in past is not possible nowadays. This is the reason why science and mathematics becomes predominant and physicists become modern yogis to guide human race towards truth, as nobody knows the truth of this mysterious negative creation where everybody including scientists also suffers physically. Newton explained gravity, gravitational constants, various laws of physics regarding cosmology like position of earth, sun, and their velocity, escape velocity, etc., which are very simple and works on macro level, as they are purely signs of big objects. He assumes that our solar system is a plane without any undulation or curvature, etc. So everything explained in three dimensions space. There is no variability in the measurement in science, and very simple like people during that time. This is a period between 1680 to 1727, that is mostly in 17th century. Afterwards, in 20th century, most prominent scientist came into picture, that is Albert Einstein, who revolutionized the quantum physics. In fact, there are many other scientists like Heisenberg, Niels Bohr, J.J. Thomson, Max Planck. They all worked on quantum physics. This is the period 20th century up to 1950. Then scientists attempted to study the deep secrets of nature at atomic or molecular level. They discovered many particles, atoms, molecules, electrons, electromagnetic force, etc., which is affecting nature. Now science becomes more complicated, and normal public cannot understand the thoughts of scientists, whereas earlier it was only a philosophy. Now higher form of mathematics becomes the language of science. Scientists explore into nature. The famous special theory of relativity came into picture in 1905 by Einstein. It spoke about variation of time, space. That means nothing is absolute in this creation. That means everything is moving in this cosmos. So if you want to measure some physical parameter, then you have to fix the reference point with respect to which you are doing measurement. Through this theory, many important facts came into light, like time relativity, variation of time in different planes, E is equal to mc square equation, that is mass energy conversion in quantum world, speed of light in vacuum, photon as the carrier of energy at quantum level. These facts revolutionize the development of quantum world, which is completely different from the physics of physical world, which was developed during the time of Newton. Everything changed. New possibilities in science come into existence. At that time, nobody could understand theories of Einstein except some high class scientific community. These theories explained many events in our spiritual scriptures like change of time scale in different planes and creation of physical world from subtle world, etc. All his theories were validated in laboratory also. Then comes the general theory of relativity in 1915, when gravity comes into picture of time and space. Only then gravity was recognized as a major game changer in space for creation of white hole, wormhole, etc. The concept of black hole emerged during that period. Due to gravity, space warps. That means space no longer remains a plane but full of undulation, and gravity travels in space and through curves also. तो जो न्यूटन के टाइम में जिसको हम एक प्लेन मानते थे, अब वो कर्व बन गया, because due to effect of gravity. Gravity affects direction of light in space. Also such revolutionary theories came into light. The concept of higher or extra dimension was evolved at that time for the first time by a German mathematician named Theodor Kaluza in 1919. He imagined just like gravitational force which is responsible for undulation of space, the electromagnetic force also traveled in curved space. सो इलेक्ट्रोमैग्नेटिक फोर्स भी कर्व स्पेस में ट्रैवल करता है. सो फिफ्थ डायमेंशन केम इनटू पिक्चर. दिस कर्वेचर बिकम्स ए फिफ्थ डायमेंशन व्हिच ह्यूमन माइंड कैन नॉट इमेजिन. Along with three dimension and time, a fifth curved dimension in space is also added to explain various forces. This is called fifth dimension. That means the force or particle can travel not only in straight path in space but in curved paths. The curved paths are not visible. As one integrate various types of forces, the dimension or degree of freedom increases. Here Kaluja integrate gravity force with electromagnetic force. Thus fifth dimension is created. Addition of a dimension is nothing but increasing the degree of freedom and which pushes science into the world of small particles called quantum world. सो जो मैक्रो से माइक्रो में हम धीरे धीरे चले गए. Increase in dimension and explore into atomic world or quantum world or world of small particles actually a new thing for human race. Till then they were only concerned about visible physical world जिसको हम स्थूल दुनिया कहते हैं. But scientists extended their research into invisible quantum world. Actually E is equal to mc square equation is meant for quantum world but not the physical world. Due to heaviness or heavy elements, the speed is reduced in physical world, which cannot be equal to speed of light. So the E is equal to mc square equation is not generally applied to this heavy physical world. बापूजी के ज्ञान के हिसाब से the elements becomes heavy on earth, so cannot acquire velocity of light. So the transformation of elements is mandatory to increase the speed. So परिवर्तन होना जरूरी है. Thus for any change we must first transform to quantum world. कोई भी change होने के लिए we have to transform to quantum world. In physical world only kinetic energy half is equal to half mv square and potential energy is applicable to heavy mass. That's why real potential of a soul is not immersed in physical world. Thus quantum world is more important and which is controlling the physical world. But quantum world comprises of particles like atom, neutron, proton, electron, etc., which is hardly seen physically by any scientist. But only experiments confirm their presence, which helps to develop many present day technology like electric current, mobile technology, computer technology, communication technology, internet data, voice transmission, etc. Einstein died in the year 1955. But last 30 years hardly he published any research papers. After the unification of electromagnetic force and gravity force by mathematician Kaluja, he had thought of unifying all the forces that governs the nature so that all the secrets of creation can be explained through one equation. वो सारे इक्वेशन को एक जगह पे मर्ज करना चाहा so that this is called grand unification theory. He was very clear that quantum world regulates the physical world. That is, all events in physical world can be clearly explained if quantum world is properly understood. So he spent his last 30 years only to unify these four fundamental forces of nature, such as electromagnetic force, strong nuclear force, gravity, and weak nuclear force. Electromagnetic force and gravitational forces are long range forces, due to which scientists can capture signals emitted from distant galactic or terrestrial bodies in space. Presently, LIGO, LISA catching gravitational wave signals and explaining many events occurring in space and distant stars. Strong nuclear force is the force which binds the nucleus together in an atom. Weak nuclear force is a force which yet to be understood by scientists. This is a real mystery still today. In simple words, weak nuclear force is responsible for decaying in isotopes due to radiation and resultant conversion to altogether to different nucleus. The real transformation yani parivartan can be materialized by this weak nuclear force as per my understanding. All these forces except weak nuclear force can be experienced in physical world like electromagnetic force, strong nuclear force, gravitational force. Electromagnetic force is the force responsible for development of modern communication technology and its carrier is photon, which is a form of energy packet. Strong nuclear force manifested on Earth like nuclear bomb for destructive purpose, and nuclear reactors for constructive purpose for generation of power. Gravity works on Earth as well as in space to keep all planets, including Earth, Sun, and all terrestrial objects in its own positions. So forces could be visualized. So all these three forces can be imagined, visualized on physical plane. But weak nuclear force cannot be visualized. How it affects quantum world as well as physical world. Though Einstein spent last 30 years in his life on this grand unification theory, but he could not succeed, and due to which he was disappointed. And during his last phase of life, and stayed in seclusion. Actually, Einstein was a scientist who believed in some superpower who is controlling the universe, and he just wanted to study the mind of this god or superpower. He spent his last 30 years of life to predict the mind of God, called as Grand Unification Theory. After Einstein, many scientists carry out many research work on this quantum physics. The string theory came into picture accidentally. In the research of quantum theory, each particle is treated as very minute or minuscule particle. So the application of gravity to a point having no mass cannot be perceived by scientists. One major point discovered in the Einstein's general theory of relativity, that is the concept of black hole. That is what singularity in Einstein's general theory of relativity, where no mathematical equation works. That means no definite result obtained at that point. So, a point in space having infinite gravity and all other quantum forces are acting simultaneously is a is beyond the imagination of scientists. It is the point at which everything ends, and its behavior cannot be predicted by scientists. So this could not be explained by any of the scientists. So this black hole represents the end of life of a star. Contribution of Einstein was phenomenal in the development of particle physics or quantum physics. String theory is the legacy of Einstein's grand unification theory, but it was developed by many scientists and mathematicians within a span of around 50 years. This was also developed accidentally. Initially in 1916, an Italian mathematician named Gabriel Veneziano discovered an old mathematical equation named as Euler beta function, which represents the strong nuclear force. In that equation, function of the subatomic particles conforms to the size of a string, which can be stretched, rotated, or compressed. Further, another American physicist, Leonard Susskind, worked on this equation to further explore the behavior of string theory, string property, in subatomic particle level. But at that point of time, there was no such popularity of string theory, nor scientists were interested in it, as it was only representing one force, that is, strong nuclear force. So, string theory was only a mathematical equation at that point of time. At that time, the basic aim of particle physics was to find smallest particle which forms the building block of this universe. So scientists discovered variety of subatomic particles by smashing high-speed particles. They may be infinite in number. Two main facts which governed the research work in particle physics. One is to find the smallest particle forming building block of creations, and unification or revalidation of application for fundamental forces in that smallest particle which further creates this vast creation. यानी वो दो चीज को जानना चाहते थे, जो सबसे छोटा पार्टिकल है और वहाँ चारों फंडामेंटल फोर्स एप्लीकेबल होता है. In order to satisfy their imagination, they assume that force is also transmitted through particles in quantum world, and each particle has its own field which is described by mass and energy. At the time of creation, At the time of start of creation, these four fundamental forces resided in an integrated manner in a single smallest point, which later on divided into distinct forces called as strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force, gravitational force, and electromagnetic force during expansion of this creation to present state. तो आज जो हम डिफरेंट फोर्सेस देख रहे थे वो एक पॉइंट में एक ही जगह पे था, आज डिफरेंट फोर्सेस में कन्वर्ट हो गया, पहले एक ही फोर्स था. The unification of all these forces is called as grand super force or standard model in science. It is very difficult to imagine the operation of gravitational force on a point which creates absurd result called as singularity. Now comes string theory. Scientists, instead of considering subatomic particles as point, considered them as strings, so that standard model can be formed where all fundamental forces can be applied. Initially, string theory is called as Bosonic string theory, which has 26 dimensions. And there was existence of a particle called tachyon particle as per mathematical equations of string theory. The existence of tachyon particle makes the theory impractical, as tachyon is a particle which travels faster than light, and the existence of such particle is beyond the imagination of scientists. Its mass is an imaginary number, that is square root of a negative integer, which mathematics cannot determine. So boson is only in energy form, it has no particle nature. So it has many dimensions, like it do that 26 dimensions, which is number of degree of freedom, which scientists cannot perceive. So this theory remained a theory without acceptance. Scientists could not imagine a world full of energy without any particle or mass. In 1973, another scientist, John Squarz of Caltech University, United States, America, worked further on this bosonic massless string theory. John Squarz worked to remove the massless particle tachyon, which travels faster than light, and abnormalities in mathematical equations of string theory. What is abnormalities? Abnormalities means values of cosmological constants which is derived from mathematical equations gives different result in different set of conditions. Whereas as per scientists, the constants, the cosmological constants should remain constant at all conditions like mass of electron or proton and their speed, etc. So John Squarz readjusted the mathematical equations and models to remove the above two anomalies. For this he applied force of gravity to the string sizes in quantum level. John Squarz assumed that gravity between subatomic particles transfers to another through a particle called graviton. He published his research paper. Still there was no response from scientific community. Then another scientist called Michael Green of University of Cambridge joined John Squarz to apply four fundamental forces on string theory, which once upon a time Einstein thought of it. Till then it was a mathematical equation, but now it becomes quantum world physics. Both worked hard, and in 1984 they derived a theory where all fundamental forces were unified with the coexistence of energy and matter like fermion along with boson. These strings are the building blocks of creation, which is very small size like 10 to the power minus 33 centimeter. That is, if the size of atom is enhanced to the size of a solar system and the size of string is also proportionately increased, then it will become like a tree on earth. The string vibrates in many frequencies. So universe is nothing but musical notes of strings in subatomic level. So universe is a symphony, that what scientists proposed. So here quantum theory is unified with gravitational force of general theory of relativity of Albert Einstein. In order to formalize the string theory of fermion and boson without tachyon particle, 10 dimensions are required. So number of dimensions reduced from 26 to 10 because of removal of tachyon and inclusion of particle or mass into the theory. What are these 10 dimensions? There are 4 dimensions, taking time as a dimension, which is a normal human being can perceive. What is this extra dimension? Generally, in time space coordinates, we require 4 dimensions to specify a point, its status, such as length, breadth, height, and time. What are the other 6 extra dimensions in string theory, which works in subatomic level? These extra dimensions are the dimensions works in subatomic level, not in physical level. Extra dimension means there are various possibilities or realities of creation. That means more degrees of freedom or more choices which human mind cannot perceive or physical eye cannot see. For example, from a very large distance, let's take an ant is moving on a straight rope connected between two terminal points. So, from a large distance, if we see, then we can see only one straight line or one dimension only. But when we go very close to the rope, we find that rope has a diameter, has a thickness, and many other dimensions in which the ant can move, which are not able to see from we are not able to see from distance. These dimensions, which we cannot perceive in physical world and beyond our cognition faculties, are called extra dimensions. The extra dimensions are the dimensions of subtle world or quantum world, not this physical world. So when a person through meditation goes to subtle world, only then he or she can perceive these extra dimensions. So, what scientists proposing these dimensions only on theoretical basis just to satisfy their validity to the mathematical models developed. But these scientists can never directly experience these extra dimensions. They can only write on research paper out of imagination, which makes them theoretical physicists. Another example, which Michio Kaku used to explain in all his videos to elaborate extra dimension. The fishes inside a pond only know to move inside the water of the pond. They have no idea what is beyond the water surface of pond. If a person raises a fish and show the world above the surface of water of pond, then world of dimension or dimension that fish sees is higher or extra dimension for the fish, but not for the person. Similar is the case with humans. We are in a pond, moving inside a pond. Once we cross the surface of pond, which is nothing but plane of Akash Tattva or ether element, then we can enter into the world of supreme elements, which is nothing but higher dimension or extra dimension for us. The higher dimension or extra dimension is a world beyond physical existence called as quantum world or subtle world, where variety of combinations in addition to physical dimension is possible, in which a subatomic particle can move. That means we are only able to see very small part of the creation which is visible to our physical eye. If we go to the micro level or quantum level, then realities are different. There are many ways we can move. That means there are many possibilities. That means limitations of physical world can be overcome. This more degrees of freedom in movement of subatomic particles are called extra dimensions or higher dimensions. As we are accessing only very limited portion of creation, so we can see only three-dimensional physical world, but extra dimensions are beyond the physical world, which we may call subtle world, causal world, super causal world, just like karan sharir, mahakaran sharir, param mahakaran sharir. Yes, life exists in different form with different shapes with variety of orientation in all these worlds which we cannot imagine or perceive. Even our scientists can't also perceive all these things. So as per Bapuji's knowledge, as per our knowledge, if we calculate extra dimensions, then it is infinite, not 10, 11 or 26 which scientists tell. So बापूजी के ज्ञान के हिसाब से दिट इज इन्फानाइट, बेहद की कला की ब्रह्मांड. However, if we focus on concept of string theory, assume string theory, string theory assumes another 6 dimensions in quantum level, in which subatomic particles can move or have orientation by creating different geometrical plane along with the three physical dimensions and time. So it is around us. These 10 dimensions in quantum world is existing, but it is at microscopic level, not at macro level. That is physical world. This is beyond physical world. This is called compactification of dimensions in string theory. The equations of string theory is based on these 10 dimensions which are at quantum level. Existence of extra dimensions in string theory only proves that our universe is vibrating in various modes and variety of force coexist simultaneously, which are called fundamental forces of nature. Taking various notes or frequencies of vibration of string, five mathematical models developed in string theory with 10 dimensions which explains the creation. In 1995, Edward Witten, a scientist from Institute of Advanced Study, proposed another equation which clearly tells that these five equations are nothing but variants of one single equation. That means he had developed a single equation from which these five equations can be derived. These five equations of string theory is nothing but five different ways of looking the creation. Now this string theory name is changed to M theory. The real meaning of M is not known. Some tells mystery, magic, mother theory. But in M theory, another extra dimension is added, so making total dimensions 11. This another dimension is very large. Its dimension is very large, just like a membrane, which is a big three-dimensional plane called as brain, on which all vibrating strings are attached. Some strings are closed loop, some are open loop. That means there are various vibrating modes on planes or membrane. The EM theory is advanced further and explains that there are many such membranes or planes exist in the creation, and each membrane has many creations called as universe. So there are parallel membranes, so parallel universe exists. The membrane is so large plane that earth is a dot on the membrane, so we cannot see this 11th dimension also. The study of quantum world explains our position in this infinite creation. Now scientists realize theoretically that there is infinite number of parallel universes. So M theory proposed the existence of 10 to the power 500 universes. The universes exist parallelly, just like slicing of breads. Each slice of bread is a membrane, which is an universe. There are such infinite universes. Every universe has different types of vibrations or notes of strings at subatomic level. So different laws of physics is applicable in each universe. That is what बापूजी explains. ये बापूजी बोलते हैं all our solar system, galaxy or universe have different combinations of elements, supreme elements, tattva, param tattva. So life exists everywhere, but with variety of combinations of tattvas, which is signified as the different nodes of strings of subatomic particles. That means we don't know the extra dimensions what string theory is proposing. Maybe existing around us, but we are not able to perceive the same due to our limitations or physicality. That's why Bapuji asks soul consciousness state or Atma Swarup. Only then we can enter into micro world and access all extra dimensions of creation. This is what string theory is and developed to present state. Now discuss something about various mysterious particles that scientists imagining and trying to prove their existence through experiments in Large Hadron Collider in CERN, Switzerland. Electromagnetic force and gravitational force both are long range forces, but electromagnetic force is 10 to the power 39 times powerful than gravitational force. But gravitational force spreads everywhere in space, which is a total mystery for scientists. How gravity travels such long distance like millions of light years? Scientists are not able to explain. Scientists explain gravity just like a sound wave or pressure wave travels through a dust particle called graviton. Everything around us, like matter and light, and they are vibrating as open-ended strings, but attached to the membranes. But what scientists explain that graviton is a closed loop string and is not attached to the membrane. so it is free to travel from one membrane to other. This graviton particle is the particle from different dimension which may be available in this universe or membrane. This graviton is responsible for gravity force of different space objects or terrestrial bodies. Thus, gravity is the weaker force of nature. If we can discover graviton particle, then we can detect and connect with other parallel universe. What scientists tell that if it may so happen that a different plane or universe which may be very near to us in space, but we don't know, and someday we can feel them. The linking particle is graviton, as graviton travels from one plane to other plane or membrane or universe. But for this, we must have the capacity to sense most powerful but weak force called gravity, transmitted through gravitons. This can only be done through soul consciousness state, as per our knowledge. So, what is Big Bang theory? How the creation started as per string theory. So, initially, universe is only a point, but it enlarges after Big Bang. If we compress the whole universe to infinitesimally small point, a minuscule point which our mind cannot imagine, then all laws of physics fails at that point. There is no sense, no logic which can be explained by scientists. So this point is called singularity. Scientists are very much theoretical. Their mind cannot expect the creation from a point without Big Bang. But spiritual point of view, everything is started from a point source only. Still, string theory cannot explain what is the situation before Big Bang. Every scientist is tilted towards explosion or Big Bang. But what causes this explosion? Nobody knows, no explanation. Some scientists also proposes that space and time emerge from nothingness. But scientists cannot explain nothing as their mind is always occupied with something like a normal human being on earth. That's why scientists always proposes Big Bang, explosion, as they cannot imagine nothing or pure peace or supreme peace. But this is our mantra to chant supreme peace and create a string of vibration of peace and stability in creation. That's why some string theorists also suggest that there is no such Big Bang or beginning. The universe is existing as it is without any start or end. If it is a starting point, then it must expand as per science. Some scientists even propose that there are collision of universes and or membranes which cause Big Bang. So there are multiple Big Bangs. Thus, there are many imagination, many postulates, many theories, but string theory has no answer to the Big Bang. And they are expecting answers from the Large Hadron Collider experiment about Big Bang. Sometimes scientists also confuse whether the string theory is a science fiction, funny mathematics, or imagination of mathematics. For this, evidence is required. For this, experiment in laboratory is a must. It is difficult to see the subatomic particles and their conditions. Scientists want to see their fingerprints in some stars or elsewhere in laboratories so that actual existence of string can be validated or proved. For this, for this, the experimentation of collision of subatomic particles started. First, it was done in Fermilab in USA, then in Large Hadron Collider CERN, Switzerland, to study the nature of fundamental particle in order to prove that scientists are on right track. Their search is extra-dimensional particles so that string theory can be proved. There comes the Higgs boson particle, which was predicted in 1964 by a scientist called Peter Higgs. The fundamental particle is a particle or field from which all forces of nature emerge, and all basic particles constituting nature is derived. This Higgs boson particle is also called as Higgs field. Later on, it is termed as God particle. But the behavior of weak nuclear force is still a mystery for the scientists, due to which they are also not clear about Higgs boson particle or God particle. So the experiment made in 2012 made scientists confused, but they were happy that a field close to Higgs field achieved as predicted by Peter Higgs. What is Higgs field or Higgs boson particle? In quantum world, particle and force are same or coexist simultaneously. Sometimes they behave like particle, sometimes like force. Here mass is defined as per the energy carrying capacity of the particle, which is derived from E is equal to mc square equation. For example, if the energy of particle is 70 gigaelectron volt, then its mass is 70 gigaelectron volt divided by c square. So higher the mass, so higher energy carrying capacity at subatomic level. Higher mass means more gravity. That means it has more impact on creation. This Higgs boson particle is such a subatomic particle which is very heavy, so carries very high energy field and gives mass to boson particle, which is a carrier of weak force but does not give mass to photon, which is a carrier of electromagnetic force. Quarks and leptons actually create matter, that is the building block of all matter what we see around. These quarks and leptons are called as fermions, which is a matter, and boson is energy. So this Higgs field is responsible for creation of all these fundamental particles and their masses and pervaded throughout the creation as per scientists. Due to this Higgs field, mass and energy is gained by these subatomic particles, which make this physical world. This Higgs field is also existed at the time of Big Bang. This is a huge task to prove the existence of Higgs field, which is only an imagination of scientists. How to measure in the experiment the existence of such energy field, as these fields are highly unstable. That means it exists only for a very small time period, which even cannot be counted on earthly scale. It may be 10 to the power minus 22 seconds or smaller than this. The high energy particles always stabilizes by radiating or losing energy. There is no direct method to prove all these aspects. By measuring mass of bosons and fermions, which is generated due to interaction of the Higgs field, the existence of Higgs field can be confirmed. These are all probabilistic studies. Many particles, many mass, many energy. It is practically a Herculean task to prove existence of Higgs field, and still the result of experiment only shows the probability of existence of a energy field. But what field, that is not known. But scientists are happy that they got an idea that some field exists which is called Higgs fields, as predicted by Peter Higgs, who never believes in God, existence of God. In quantum field, the particles change their identity or property frequently, like mass, energy, orientation, shape, etc. So it is impossible to measure them with instruments that scientists have now. Huge investments are made for this, like $10 billion for Large Hadron Collider experiment in CERN, Switzerland. Say such as Higgs particle decays to quark or antiquark, then to jet, double boson, and return to Higgs field again within a time span of 10 to the power minus 22 seconds. So how can you detect it? This is what quantum world and extra dimension is. Till now, scientists are not clear about mass of the Higgs particle or so-called God particle. So scientists are living with happiness as well as in great confusion as far as discovery of God particle is concerned. These experiments also help to understand matter, antimatter, dark energy, dark matter, etc. The fact is that when we are living in a world of three dimensions, excluding time, whereas remaining seven dimensions are not known us, then 95% of the energy is not accessible. 95% of the matter is not accessible to human being. The matter and energy in the physical world exist separately, whereas in quantum world they are same and interconvertible within a short span of time, like 10 to the power minus 22 seconds or smaller than this. So quantum world is nothing but world of energy which human mind cannot comprehend. Now let us discuss about the energy sources, various energy sources used, generally we use in on earth. 1 kg of coal generates 8 kilowatt hour of energy, of heat energy. Similarly, 1 kg of oil generates 12 kilowatt hour of heat energy. But 1 kg of uranium 235 generates 20 lakh kilowatt hour of heat energy. See what power nuclear energy has that quantum world has. This signifies, just take an idea. This indicates what is the nuclear power, how big it is compared to gross physical objects like oil and coal, etc., what we see all around us. The bomb that dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan is only 64 kg of uranium 35 that destroyed two cities completely with lot of after effects. This same uranium 235 is used in power plants for power generation in nuclear reactors for electricity, but it creates a lot of radiation hazards. What is nuclear fusion? The source of energy in sun is the fusion of different isotopes of hydrogen to form helium nuclei. This fusion creates high energy of neutrons which gives heat and light to our solar system. So at present we are surviving on nuclear energy only on earth, without which the creation on earth is impossible. So you can imagine how important this nuclear energy is. There are many research works carried out primarily in European countries for generation of enough energy for electricity through fusion of hydrogen and isotopes of hydrogen. But to happen regulated fusion of hydrogen on earth similar to it takes place in sun, it requires a temperature of 100 million degrees Celsius. This is a temperature 10 times hotter than sun. At this temperature, matter will exist only in the form of plasma, which are nothing but only charged particles, that is ionized atoms and free electrons. Why so high temperature is required to create fusion on earth? This is only due to weak gravity force on earth, whereas the gravity force inside sun is too high, which fuses easily the hydrogens to release light and heat. But on earth we have to create 10 million degrees Celsius to bring two hydrogen nuclei very close to each other and cause fusion. This indicates how gravity plays an important role in creation. This also indicates also how creation is so systematic, because Almighty Authority knows that to maintain sun's temperature, how much gravity is required. Till now, scientists cannot explain the particular value of 20 cosmological constants which hold and maintain this creation in perfect balance. A slight variation in value of these constants will make the creation to become impossible. Validity of string equations is verified by finding the values of these 20 cosmological constants mathematically. Definitely, scientists are working hard, but Almighty Authority has a different plan altogether. सो माई ऑल माई थ्योरी मैं सारे थ्योरी जो एक्सप्लेन करना था कर दिया. तो थोड़ा मैं बताना चाहता हूँ. आई एम नॉट एन प्रोफेशनल theoretical physicist but an engineer working for my physical survival in day to day life. But I had worked as scientist for a small period in Department of Atomic Energy. So by using that knowledge and knowledge given by Bapuji, I tried to study the mind of scientists to explain all these theories. But how far I am correct, I don't know. The basis of my knowledge is nothing but infinite knowledge given by Bapuji, which I used to analyze all these scientific theories in my mind. अभी मैं थोड़ा सा बापूजी के नॉलेज के साथ ये चीज़ को कंपेयर कर लूँगा. The knowledge by Bapuji is a direct experience. There is no assumptions, no hypothesis, no theory. The explanation of creation is clear without any confusion. According to Bapuji, the elements are from supreme elements, and supreme elements are from supreme divine light. So there is one point fixed, that is Almighty Authority, who is the master of all systematic creation. And everything is moving and rotating around the Almighty Authority. According to Bapuji, as one moves upward or into more finer particle world or quantum world, the greater the quality of energy and stability. That means when one enters into higher dimension, the energy is very high, but orderly energy, which may be nothing but maybe weak nuclear force, which works through radiation only, which is not understood by scientists. As per Bapuji, if one imagines about the Behad ki Kala ki Brahman, then it will be with infinite dimensions, which cannot be perceived by any human being on earth. The basic concepts of Bapuji is soul and internal journey to access various level of finer quantum world which scientists cannot understand. Soul itself is nothing but a quantum world existing in human body itself, through which one can access to higher dimensions. Whereas scientists try to connect higher dimension through Hadron Collider, an instrument which is totally impossible. Our aim is to create vibration or electromagnetic field in the whole creation by chanting Behad ki Param Param Mahasanti. So, what orderly weak nuclear force can spread and convert all the heavier elements to supreme elements so that every human soul can access the higher dimensions where actual peace exists? Scientists perhaps don't understand what peace is, so supreme peace is far away from a scientist. In India, we believe in God, love God, also search for God. That is our culture. That's why we believe in existence of soul. This helps us to maintain morality, ethics, character, purity, etc. Everything. This is our original nature or culture. So many yogis were born on this land. In Western world, they analyze and study the mind of God. That's why many scientists born in Western countries. That is their culture. But in life, there is nothing right or wrong. Everything is an experience. But how a soul learn from experience is important, so that it can access the higher dimension. This is real spirituality. इसलिए श्रीमद् भगवत गीता में भी कहा गया, आत्मा ही आत्मा की मित्र है, आत्मा ही आत्मा की शत्रु है. यानी we can elevate ourselves or degrade ourselves. We all are master of our own destiny. But our building block is our Almighty Authority, Bapuji, from whom we get our energy. In short, we can explain string theory as follows. We all Behad ki Atmas were like Boson particle, the carrier of energy from the source Higgs field, who is Almighty Authority. Due to love between Almighty Authority and His children, there is continuous interaction at subatomic level between father and child, where father is Higgs and child is Boson. Both combined form the Higgs boson field. So Behad ki परम परम महाशांति है.